And everybody, good morning, good evening. I okay. The last time we did input function, and of course, I believe there's no much question as to input functions. And if you have any question regarding input function, you can still message me personally on Discord. You can message me, you can get to me via Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever. You can even comment on the comment section. I will do my best to answer. And today I want to quickly do some because the input because we are currently on integer. But that being said, I really quickly want to touch a bit of float using input function. I'll touch integer and touch float using input function so as we can quickly, you know, go to the next important topic, and which has been the topic that I've been waiting for to, is a topic that will really, you know, get you wet in programming. So, as a beginner, so today I want to start off with uh, some exercises, using input function, and of course some mathematical exercises. Let me remove these. What we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be doing finding the area of rectangle using input. Let me create a file. Let me create a file. Say area of area say of rect input to what dot py. Now you will see that in my naming convention I started with what, a lowercase. Then at the beginning of the new word, I used an uppercase so as for me not to create a kind of distinction. Then of course another new word input I created, what I started with, what, an uppercase, just for me to be able to create a distinction. So let me enter that. So we have to look for an area of rectangle. The area of rectangle, you agree with me that area of rectangle is what, length times breadth. I told you not to be worried as to formulas, memorizing formulas. Whatsoever task you've been given anywhere, or whatsoever task you meet, you see an int. You understand? So you shouldn't be scared about, okay, uh, do I need to memorize all these mathematical formulas, or do I need to memorize all these things? No, you don't need to memorize. In programming, you don't memorize. You just know the concept, and of course you flow with it. You understand what I'm saying? So if you meet any challenge, any brain tasking challenge, you just have to know, be aware that the kind of int or formula will be given to you to work on. So in this case, let's say we don't know what our length is and what our breadth is. Sure, understand? So let's say, let's store it. Let's make L, which is the length, a variable. You understand? Now, I need to remind you of something. I want to quickly remind you on how to, on how not to, on how to identify if a particular variable on VS Code. I don't know of other IDs. A particular variable is a keyword or not. The quickest hack to that is punch your variable. Now, if in on VS Code, if your variable is underlined like this, if your variable was underlined as if it's having fault, that shows you are not using a keyword. You understand? So for it to be properly highlighted, you have to what, equate it to something, then it changes to blue or green or whatever. So that shows it is never a keyword. But at the beginning of specifying your variable, let's say you say um, let's say pass, you will see that it is highlighted already, and without having any underline showing that there's a potential error somewhere. So that shows the keyword. You understand? So I just need to digress on that. So let's create a variable L. Let's say we don't know what it is. And I remember I told you that input function is a function that allows user input. That is, that allows you to input a data. You understand? It allows you to, as a user, to create it gives you the freelance or the opportunity to um, input your own data. You understand? So right now, we want to create a function that, what, a program that calculates the length, I mean the area of rectangle. You understand? Let me write it out. So our objective, let's say our objective is what, creating creating a program creating a program that calculates uh, the area of what rectangle. So we are creating a program that calculates what the area of rectangle. So let's say, because we know that the area of rectangle is what length times breadth. That is the area of what rectangle. So because of this formula, we have to create what a variable for length. So let's call it L equals to, of course, we create our input function. You understand? We create what? Our input function. Let's say input function. You understand? So we can say enter length, excuse me, enter length, length, enter length, put a space so that it will create a space. Enter length, then we say breadth, let's say B equals what? Input, uh, let's say, excuse me, let's say enter breadth, enter what? Mm, let's say enter breadth. You understand? You understand? Enter breadth. I don't know if I'm getting the spelling for bread, but that shouldn't be an issue. So the area of the area will now be what? A. Let's say A equals, now we have to follow this concept now. Here it is, the int given here is that A equals what? Length times breadth. You understand? So here we have created an input function for length. In this breadth, that in this B we stored what? Input function for what? Breadth. So we have to follow this same int. So by following this same int, we now say uh and remember, input function convey always carries um a string data type. It carries what? String data type. You understand? By specifying the input method, it comes what? You have to, the value inside input function is what? String. So naturally, by default, input function what? Is a string. It is the data inside input function is what? It comes what? As a string. So because it comes as a string, we have to what? Typecast it into what? Integer. So how do we typecast it? Of course, L, now by input enter breadth, enter length and enter breadth is stored in what? L and B. So L now is now carrying something, an input function that is what? That the data types will be what? Will be in string. And breadth is also carrying a data type that an input function that the data types will be in what? String also. So we have to typecast the two. By typecasting, remember I told you what typecasting means. Typecasting is when you try to change from one data type to another data type. Let's say, for example, integer to float, float to integer, integer to string, string to integer, and what have you. So in this case, we will have what? Int bracket. I don't know why this thing is always coming up. Say int bracket. What will be here? L. You understand? So L will be what? There. So int bracket L times what? Breadth. Remember I told you asterisk is what? Is what is used as multiplication sign in programming. So times what? Breadth. So now when we run the when we print the area of triangle, let's say, I mean, sorry, area of rectangle, let's say print, let's make it let's say print let's say print area of rectangle, area of what? Rectangle uh, is, say, okay, is say let's put comma A. A. Now let me tell you what this is. Let me recap. L is equals to what? Input, enter the length of what? That is giving you an option, a freelance or an opportunity to enter your input. B is also giving you an opportunity to enter your the breadth input. And remember, they both comes in string. Now, this A is now a variable that is multiplying the typecasted length multiplied by the typecasted breadth, which is int. You understand? So any value that you enter here, any string, any number value that you enter here, that you enter inside this length and breadth, will now be what? Will now be, instead of it to be in integer, will now be in, I mean, instead of it to be in string, they will now be in what? Integer. So now we want to print area of rectangle. So we want our program to say area of rectangle is. You can be creative with yours. You can say the area of rectangle is, my area of rectangle is, your area. You can just be creative with just this string format. But here, I put a comma here to delimitate this, because of course this is an integer, because it's carrying this A is carrying what? Integer of L and integer of B multiplying themselves. So the variable A is what? Carrying or storing what? Integers. So you have to delimitate the string with what? A comma. You have to delimitate the string with a comma. After delimiting the string with a comma, because if I say plus, you can't add string with integer. So you have to delimitate the string with what? A comma. By delimitate, I mean separate. Then you now give a space and write the variable, so that you can say the area of rectangle is what? I mean A, which will be the value that is being expressed by integer of L and integer of B. So let's run the program and see what it's doing in practical. So it will ask me it will ask me to enter my length. You click on the console and enter your length. Let's say I want to say uh my length is what? 12. Punch enter and say my breadth is, say you can say 5. Punch enter. Of course, the area of rectangle is what? 60. How? Let's do it in mathematical way. In our O level, as in, let's say in our crude mathematics, we can say this is what I entered L to be what? 12. I entered breadth to be 5. Invariably, length time, I mean 12 times 5 is what? 60. So that is what I did. So this is it. So area of rectangle, that is the string that I wanted to be part of my program, to make a more meaningful explanation to. So area of rectangle is what? 60. You understand? So let's do one more thing. Let's do the one that we have pi. The one that we have pi, so that I can import a pi module. Let me let me comment this out. Let me comment this out. Um, Let me comment this out. Let's say uh, let's say I'm looking for, let's say, area of a circle. Let's say we are let's creating a program, creating a program that calculates that calculates what? The area of what? Of a circle. Creating a program that calculates the area of a circle. So how do we do that? Let's say we have the formula for area of circle. Of course, we know that is what? Area of circle is going to give us what? Say area. Let me use lowercase. Area equals what? Let's say um, uh, pi um, times what? R square. And R square, in this, R square means R times R. So we can say R times R. You understand? When you say something square, if you say A square, it means A times A. R square here is what? R times R. So the area of a circle is what? Um, pi r square, which is what? Pi times r times r. So in your O level mathematics, especially in Nigeria, we were taught that the area of a circle is what? Pi r square. So in this case, I'm just spelling it out better understand. Of course, this is code, so we shouldn't expect a Python. So here, the first thing to do, the first thing to do here is what? To import a module. What is a module? Let me import it first. Let me say from math module, from math import py module, from math import py. Now, what is a module? A module is uh, an already uh, it's a code template that has been done by um, fellow programmers in order for us to not to go over the same stress. A reusable code, a reusable code that has been done by fellow programmers in order for it to for us to have access to it and be able to what to use it in our own code. So in this, you see this spy module has been it has been um it's a module that has been coded, you understand, by our fellow programmers. So it's now being imported as a module for me to be able to what to reuse it. So instead of doing the stress of trying to code the pi model from scratch, I will just what reuse it. And of course that is part of the collaborative part of being a good programmer. You see, as a programmer you have to be collaborative, so that is collaboration. They have collaborated by what creating a module. So that module is now being useful to me, so it is now reusable. So in your career you should be able to create a reusable code, and that's what makes you a better software engineer or a programmer. So in this case, you are looking for the area of what of the area of what a circle. So by looking for the area of a circle, we have how many things do we have here? We have uh, we have to first of all look for r. We are not going to be creating pi. We are not going to be making use of pi as variable, because pi is a module. So the only thing to use as variable here is what? R. Of course, a is storing pi times r, so we need just one r. You don't need to have double r, so we need just one r, and say equals what? Input input uh input. Okay, the other time I had to give the input before typecasting. So in this case, let me typecast directly. Let me say integer input, sorry, integer what? Input, another another parenthesis, that is bracket in Nigeria, in Nigeria lingua. So we have r equals integer, open bracket, input, another open bracket, to show that input is a method, and of course integer too is a method. So method conveying a method, that is what is happening here. So let's say enter radius. Let me say enter radius. Enter radius. Of course, r is what? Radius. Let me give it colon, let me give it a space to make to be readable. So after that, after you have entered your input value, then python should now do what? Python should now multiply the input value by pi, you understand, and what? Multiply by r and another r, you understand. So multiply r twice with the what? Pi. So the r is what? Is gotten from what? An input function given to um sorry, given by you. So let's now print area of what? Circle. So by printing area of circle, I can say print print and put it in string, area of circle. Area of circle is I don't need a. You understand? So a being a variable of what? Pi times r times r. So let's run the program. Yes, the program is asking me for. No, let me close it. Okay, let me run it. Yeah, yes, yes. Let me run it. Yes, it said enter what radius. So by entering radius, let me say what do we call our radius? Let's say our radius is 3. Punch enter, it will now give us what? It gave us what? A float. Area of what? Circle is what? 28.274 blah 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 blah. Now this now brought us to another form of method called round method. The way we can round this number, Python allows us to round this number. How do we do it? Let me see. Let's see. Now we can now store to round it. Let's say we want to store this in a, let's store it in a variable. Let's call the variable round, but I will not spell it correctly so as for me to not use a keyword there. Yeah, understand. So let's say round. Now, how do we round it? You now say, you now say, or let me store it in. Okay, let me now say, rounded equals what? Uh, round of round of what? Round. How many significant figure do we want? Do we want to round it to two significant figure? Let's say two. By significant figure, we mean uh say that is two figure after the decimal point. So we want to round it to what? Two decimal places. Sorry, excuse me. So rounded. Now let me explain this side. We are storing this value, this print statement. You understand? The value of this print statement, you are storing it inside say we are storing it inside what? um okay, there's no need to do it this way. There's no need to do it this way. We can say we can do it this way directly. You don't need to do it this way. This is a very long cut. Let me just do it this way. Now let me explain what round function do. This is round function. Round method is enables you to um round your long float to what? To a desired decimal place. It can be two decimal place, it can be three decimal place. Let's say our value is a, you understand, and the value we'll be getting is inside a, so we round it into what? Let's say two decimal places, you can say three decimal places, you can say one decimal place, it depends. So the first thing is what? Where the value is being stored, and the second uh argument will be what? Where the second argument will be what? Where the, where it will carry two arguments. It's a method that conveys two arguments. The first argument is what? um the variable storing the value, or the value itself. Is either the value itself or the variable storing the value, comma separated by, separated by a comma, and what? Indicate the number of decimal places. It could be one decimal place, it could be two decimal places, it could be three decimal places, whichever the case may be. So let's say in our case we want two decimal places. So instead of trying to store many variables, you don't need to do that. You can just say, yeah, round a, you understand? I mean, round a into what? Say two decimal places, and of course this should work. Round a into what? Decimal places. Let's see, say enter radius 3, punch it. So it's rounded it. You will see that this value here is what? 2.28.27 blah 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 blah. And here, because in your primary school or your secondary school level, you will see that if the number that precedes, or sorry, the number that succeeds the number you are rounding to is less than 5, eh, it is not going to be rounded. It will be cut off. You understand? They will be cut off. But had it been this 4 is 5, this one would have been 28.28, this 7 would have been rounded to 20, but it's not up to 5, so it will be rounded to what? 27. to be rounded to what? 27. So that is that. That is that. And of course, please understand the method round function. And of course, another thing to do in this case is to what? Let's say we want to we don't want the value to give us we don't want the value to give us let's say we don't want the value to give us a float. The value we are getting now is float, you know. I hope you understand that is float. What's that again? Let me see. What's that? Punch? Nothing. Okay, let me run it. Ignore this, please. Okay, I said 3 points. Now, the value we are getting, remember, it's float. You understand? Let's say we don't want to get float. Yeah, yeah. Let's say we don't want to get float. What we will do is what? We will now say, okay, instead of rounding, we can now say, give us, give us an int. Let's say an int of what? A. So we are now typecasting this A here. Let me close it. We are now typecasting. Remember, for every you see, if I over on the variable, you will see that Pylance is already giving us a tooltip saying variable is what? Tooltip is this thing here is tooltip. Anything that pops up while it's a bootstrap thing. So anything that pops up while you hover around um, when you hover around anything on the user interface, it what pops up is called tooltip. So you will see this tooltip here showing um, variable a is what? Float. So we want to convert this variable a to what? Integer. So we are saying and then I wanted to say something before. Well, remember that for every method I open, I always try to close the after closing the method, I won't forget to close add another uh parenthesis. That is, this is parenthesis, open bracket, it means parenthesis. So I won't, so that it won't lead to an error. She understand? For every method comes with its own what? Parenthesis. So let's run it so that it will turn the value, this float value, to integer. Let's see. Let's use, of course, our radius is 3. You will see that 28. So I remember I told us that integer, by converting a float to integer, it will chop off the what? The decimal point, which is a float. So we've done float here. And of course, you can even make your this thing to be float, your value to be float. Let's say your radius to be float, and stuff and stuff and stuff like that. I want to let me just continue on the let me just continue rather than stopping. So right now we have I quickly want to touch complex variable, but I think I taught complex numbers before now. But if I have not touched it, please let me know in Discord so that I can just quickly do a short video on complex number, because I need us um, to quickly move to a new topic called condition. Condition. Let's say condition. Let me create condition.py. Condition. So condition is very important uh, in programming, especially when we're trying to make decision. So condition is about decision making. Let's say making decision, making decision in programming. It's a kind of constraint. Sure, understand. It is what constrain your program, or when you're trying to create a kind of constraint to your program. It's about decision making. It's about a condition is just like giving a constraint to your code as to what it needs to be done, or what it needs to do, or what it needs not to do. So that is condition. So we have this statement. Let me define it. It is a statement that helps in making decisions and controlling flow of the program. And of course, let me repeat. I said it is the statement that helps in making decisions and controlling flow of what? Of the program. And of course, it comes with, there are three types of conditions. We have the if conditions, major types, not really. So we have the if condition, It's in lowercase. We have the if, we have the elif, and we have the what? We have the else condition. So these are statements that um, put a constraint to your program as to, okay, I want you to do this if this is done, or if this is what it is. I want you to do this if this. I want you to do this if this. I want you to do that if that. So condition. So the if statement, the if, elif, and else statement decides which block of statement to execute. Like I was saying, it's a kind of, it puts a kind of constraint um, to your uh, to your program. So it kind of decide which block of statement. When I told you, I remember I told you, each line is called, each line of code is called blocks of code. You understand, in Python. So um, like I said, it tells us which block of statement to execute on the basis of the what, the logical expression included. Decision making in programming is something that attracts, in Python particularly, is something that that conforms, or that make use of logical reasoning. That is where the reasoning, the logical expression starts from. You understand? That is when you start knowing that you're a programmer. You understand? So a block of statement is attached with if, as well as with else, elif, and stuff. And so when the logical expression is evaluated, either the if or the else block statement is what, executed. So in our next class, we're gonna be talking. The else is, now. Let me quickly get to you that, let me tell you or inform you that the else statement is optional. It is very, very optional. You understand? It is not. It is optional, so it depends on the constraint you are putting to your code, or the constraint you are putting, or you are giving to your program. So let me quickly stop here, and of course um, continue from the next class, when we start to get our hands dirty while using conditions, or making decisions with if, elif, and else statement. At this point, I would have to appreciate you for your consistency, and uh, your love, your painstakingness in trying to make sure that you understand every bit of, or in making sure you follow up, or attend the lectures. So please don't stop. Don't stop. You don't need to stop. It might be looking hard, it might be looking, I'll do my best to bring it down to our level. Understand? I understand that you are a beginner, of course, and I'm making sure I'm working hard to make it beginner friendly. You understand? So keep watching them, keep attending your lectures. Don't stop attending your lectures. And when you keep attending your lectures and you are putting it into practice, as you are as you watch one lecture, go back to practice it. You can put down your, I've told you, um what helped me in programming is the ability to write. You understand? When you are watching a video, write it down. Write it down. When you write down, it synchronizes with your mind. There's no way you'll be writing without reading what you are writing. Don't type it down. Watch, write, practice it, and that's how you keep building yourself in programming. you know you can't do much by just watching me. I mean, by just watching my lectures, by just view my lectures. You just like, or by just watching my video, by just watching how I do it. You can't learn much. You can only learn much when you watch it, try to understand it, write it down, practice it offline. After writing it down, taking notes, and practicing it offline, and that is what builds you. It's just like when you are watching it without practicing it, without writing, without practicing, it's just like you trying to grow muscles just by watching a weightlifter. You understand? So you grow muscles by what? Practicing what the weightlifter is doing. You understand? So that is that. Thank you very much. If I have any question, message me, send a message to me on the comment section. You can comment on the comment section. If you like my lecture so far, you can like it on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and like my this thing, our lecture. You can give us good comments if you think we are, if you think we deserve it. And if you have any question, like I said, drop in my comment section. Ask me on Discord, on Telegram, on WhatsApp. You can ask me. I'm very open to answering you. Thank you very much for this lecture, and God bless you.